Hi everyone. Today we're going to start our new very short unit on area. There's only 2 days of notes and then the review because it is just using the area formula. Then we will go into the next part of the unit where we will get into area and volume more in depth. Alright, so hopefully you all remember how to find the area of a rectangle. Area of a rectangle, and let me do this for you. Remember, you might have started on grid paper where you can actually count the boxes. You could count the boxes, and soon you realized that if you had a 3 by 6, what you're really doing is taking 6 groups of 3, which would be 18. So you get your area formula of length times width. So 6 times 3 is 18, and because it's 6 inches times 3 inches, 6 times 3 is 18, inches times inches is inches squared. So area is always measured in these square units. Alright, so 11 times 11, so when you are doing a formula, when you're using a formula, I want you to tell me what formula you are using. Show me how you're plugging in the numbers and then writing the answer. It is fine with me if you use a calculator for this unit as long as you are showing me your work. So here it's a rectangle, so I know that I'm going to use the formula length times width. I'm going to plug in my numbers and I'm going to simplify. It is that simple to use a formula. Alright, if you were in class, I would ask you to tell me the name of this shape. But I will just tell you. This is a parallelogram. Parallelogram. So a parallelogram has opposite sides that are the same length and opposite sides that are parallel. It does not necessarily have a right angle, although it could, and if it did, it would look like a rectangle. So rectangles are also a type of parallelogram. So how can we find the area of this? So they're very similar to rectangles, but not exact because they're slanted. However, if we had this piece right here, and then we moved it over here, we now have a rectangle of the same area. So because of that, we can take, so from here to here is the same distance as from here to here. So we're going to call this the base. And then this part right here, so notice it's not part of the slant, it's a new line. Let me erase. This part right here is like our width. If this is our length, this would be our width. And because it's really not part, we can't call it a width, but we can call it the height. The height. The height is that distance between the base and its opposite side. And it is a perpendicular line. So I remember this because here is the distance. I'm going to put my little square in to show it as a perpendicular line, a 90-degree angle, and it makes a little H. So to find the area of a parallelogram, we just take that height and multiply it by the base. So the area of a parallelogram is just base times height. So the only difficult thing about this is remembering you're not using, I've drawn all over this, you're not using this side and this side, you're using this base and the perpendicular distance between that base and the other side. All right, so let's do some practicing. So I'm going to name my formula. So it's a parallelogram. So again, it's the base times the height. So I'm going to find my base. And I know that that's my base because I see this right angle. So 25. And I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use that height, the distance in between. This side I would use if I was trying to find the perimeter. Add up all the sides. But here I'm going to use my base and my height to find the area. So that would be 200 meters squared. And again, the reason we can do that is if we cut this off and moved it over here, it would give us a rectangle. All right. The same can be true if you have to find the perpendicular distance on the outside. So here is my base. This part right here is the base because it's part of the parallelogram. And I'm going to find that distance in between the two, which would be 5 1/4. So because of that, I do not need to use this number right here, and I do not need to use this number right here. I'm only using, oops, I forgot my base times height. I'm only using my formula, so I'm going to find my base, which is 2 1/2, and I'm going to find my height, which is not the side length, but the distance between the two bases. And I'm going to multiply. So I know that many of you have been using calculators, and so some of you might have already done 2.5 times 5.25, and that's okay, but I do want you to try to practice fractions as well. The more you can do fractions, the more you're going to remember them. So to multiply, you put them into improper fractions. So 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1, so I have 5 halves, times 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21 fourths. I can't simplify, so I'm just going to multiply across. So I have 8, and 21 times 5 is 105. So I have 105 eighths. And I paused the recording so I could do my division. So 8 goes into 105 13 times with 1/8 left over. So here is my whole number. Here is my denominator. Here is my new numerator. So 13 and 1/8. I didn't leave it as 105 eighths because when we're working with measurements, 105 eighths doesn't give me a good idea. So I know here it's just over, so the area is just over 13 square inches. Okay, so I want you to pause the video now and see if you can use your knowledge of parallelograms to answer these questions. So pause and then come back after you finish answering these 3 questions. Okay, so the first thing I did was I used the parallelogram formula for area to find the area of the whole shape. So I did base times height. Remember to write in that formula, whatever formula you're using first, then fill in what you know and simplify. So the area of the whole region was 200 meters squared. The area of the colored region, which is colored so beautifully, was only half of that because it was half of the shape. So we had to take our original 200 and divide it by 2. So the area of the colored region was 100 meters squared. So the colored region is a triangle. So what does that tell us about the formula? Well, it's half of the parallelogram that it would make if it was flipped over. So to find the area of a triangle, we can just use base times height divided by 2. So let's do a couple of these. The area of a triangle, we could write area of a triangle, base times height divided by 2, or we could do 1/2 base times height. Remember, multiplying by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. So I'm going to find my base. So it is right here. And remember that height is that perpendicular line that meets it. So we don't need this one at all. It is my base and my height. And it could be turned. The base does not necessarily mean it has to be on the bottom. We could have turned it so it was like this. And it would still have been the base. What you're looking for is that right angle. So I have area equals base times height. That's what it would be if it was a full rectangle, but it's not, it's only half of it, so I'm going to divide it by 2. So now I have 8 times 15 divided by 2. 8 times 15 is 120 divided by 2. So the area of this shape is 60 feet squared. Okay, so all of these, the bottom is going to be my base. Again, it doesn't have to be, it can be turned, and you are going to have some like that. But in this case, they're all the base, and then the height is that perpendicular line showing the distance between the base and the opposite angle. So here, the base and the distance showing that between the base and the opposite angle. So I would like you to pause and write formula, fill in what you know, and answer. See if you can do these on your own. All right, hopefully you paused and tried these on your own. And by the magic of TV, my problems are already done. So here I have my formulas. That's the first thing. I want to point out that for these I use base times height divided by 2, but for this one, because of the fractions, I wrote it the other way, 1/2 times base times height, because I know that dividing by 2 is tricky if you have fractions. So I did not put into decimals because I didn't want a repeating decimal, and I would have had a repeating decimal here. So I did 3 times 8 plus 2 to get me my 26/3, and 5 times 5 is 25 plus 3 is my 28/5. And then instead of multiplying across and then simplifying, I simplified first. So 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 26 13 times, and then I multiplied, and 15 goes into 364 24 times, with 4 left over, I believe, and it's going to be in meters squared. This one is a little different because here the height is on the outside. We couldn't find the height going up, the distance between the base and the opposite corner inside, because it's slanted too far out. So we had to have our height on the outside. So we are still not using our other side lengths. We are just using this. Okay, so here's the base. The base's length is 24 inches, and my height is 8 inches. So I did base times height divided by 2, and ended up with 96 inches squared. Please check my arithmetic on all of these, on everything I do. Please check my arithmetic. All right, this one is a little tricky. Notice we are given this other number here, but it wasn't part of our triangle. so we didn't have to worry about it. This 24 was the length and this was the height. Here, on the other hand, our height is actually in the middle of the base, and so it split it into two. So instead of naming the whole length, it split it into two. That will allow people to find this in a different way. We could have found the area of that triangle, base times height divided by 2, and the area of this triangle, base times height divided by 2, and added them together. Notice this is a side length. It is not the height, so we're not going to use that. I chose not to do two different triangles. I just added together to get a length for my base of 11.9, and I used that. So 11.9 times the height, and again the height is that perpendicular distance between the base and its opposite point, right like that, and then divided by 2. So I ended up with 30.94 feet squared. So lastly, I just want to review the formulas that we have used so far. Area of a rectangle is length times width. Area of a parallelogram is similar to that, except it's slanted, so we have to use the base. Whoops. So the base and the perpendicular distance between them, so it can either be on the outside or the inside, so that's my height. And then the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2, or 1/2 times base times height, because it is only half of that parallelogram or half of the rectangle. These are, for this short unit, these are the formulas that you will be using. All right, we out.